Hello everyone, this is Chris from the Verkada Solutions Engineering team, and welcome to this technical training video. This video will help you better understand the Verkada camera platform and was made with our audience of partners and resellers in mind, but should be helpful for any Verkada user. We're going to assume you've already seen some of the Verkada command system and features already. This video is meant to go more in depth than that. We'll start with a product overview and breakdown. Next we'll talk about some tips for choosing and designing a Verkada camera system. And lastly, we'll go over what a sample installation might look like, as well as some best practices. Let's start with a refresher of the Verkada architecture, then we'll break down each camera in the lineup. Verkada's hybrid cloud architecture is different from your traditional NVR CCTV solution. With us, it's all about the camera itself. Each camera has its own solid-state storage, capable of holding anywhere from 30 to 365 continuous days of high-quality video, always at 24 frames per second. That means no NVRs, DVRs, servers, thick clients, and things like that to store your video. We keep your on-prem footprint very small. Each camera connects directly to our servers over PoE, Power over Ethernet, but thanks to that local storage, we're not constantly streaming footage, which in the past can strangle bandwidth. We upload just thumbnails and metadata in our steady state, giving us a normal usage of only 20 to 50 kilobits per second on the network. When you want to go and access that footage, you log into your Verkada command dashboard from anywhere, on any device. We have a mobile app, we're supported in any browser, so remote access is simple. As an additional benefit, when you're on site with the cameras, footage is automatically streamed locally over the network straight to your client. When you're remote viewing, our cameras will multiplex, meaning you can have many concurrent viewers without multiplying the amount of bandwidth used on the uplink. All of this combined makes us the most bandwidth-friendly cloud solution on the market. On the other hand, we understand local camera storage might be worrisome for those with cameras in vulnerable areas or mission-critical applications, so we give you redundant cloud backup with every camera as well, keeping your video safe in any event. On top of all this, as you've probably seen, we're leveraging computer vision and AI to deliver more than just video recording. We're plotting motion, we can save faces for later searching, we can alert you to faces in real time and detect crowds. A lot we're doing to provide deeper insight into your video than just the traditional video itself. Now we're going to talk about the hardware that enables this software and architecture. We have a multitude of different options and should be able to cover most every use case. Let's start with a Dome series. A Dome series camera is going to fit in most applications, with other model cameras being more application specific. You can see there are 8 Dome series cameras, 4 indoor and 4 outdoor. And at the entry level, we have the CD31. It's spec'd a little more modestly with a 2 megapixel sensor and 15 days of retention, but it does carry all the same benefits as other cameras in the line. Analytics, alerts, all that is here. Just keep in mind you're not going to get the same quality analytics results with a 2 megapixel sensor as you would with a 5 or 8 megapixel sensor. So next, we look at the CD41. We upgrade from a 2 megapixel sensor to a 5 megapixel sensor here, giving you a more detailed image, as well as additional retention options of 30, 60, 90, 120, and even 365 days of onboard retention. The camera has a fixed lens, but every Verkada camera will give you digital zoom to expand that high resolution image. The CD41 and 31 also both include IR LEDs to give you true night vision, as do all Verkada cameras, so keep that in mind. Let's step up again to look at the CD51. Some key differences here. The 51 offers a 3 times optical zoom lens, allowing you to get greater detail at range for those places like parking lots or long corridors. We also include stronger IR LEDs, which means better visibility at night. And lastly, the flagship CD61 is the best of the best. An 8 megapixel 4K sensor gives you unprecedented detail. The IR optical isolation bands reduce glare, which can occur as the dome gets dirty over time. And 3x optical zoom is included here as well. All of the Dome cameras come in indoor and outdoor variants, the difference here being that the outdoor variants are IP67 water resistant. The Mini series is next in the lineup. The CM41 and CM61 appear here and offer very similar specs to the Dome series we just went over. You see that high resolution, that guaranteed retention, IR LEDs, they're all on board, just in a smaller form factor. You might consider something like this in retail shops or offices, anywhere where you might want to keep your cameras a little less noticeable, more discreet. Keep in mind these cameras do not have the same tamper-proof housing as the Dome series, and so if you're worried about people tampering with your cameras, this may not be the best option for you. Let's look at the Bullet series next. A very different form factor, these cameras are larger and more robust than the others in the sense that they're encased in an enclosed aluminum casing from the factory. Outdoor domes need to be sealed during installation, but the lens assembly of the Bullet cameras comes sealed out of the box, making installation a little easier and more reliable. These are going to hold up best in challenging environments and provide you with a more intimidating form factor to serve as a visual deterrent. Again, looking at the specs, you'll find a lot of similarities here, especially with the CB51E and CB61E, that 5 megapixel and 4K options, similar retention as well. You'll notice a big difference here, though, with the CB51TE and CB61TE. What we've done with these cameras is we've increased the focal length from 2.8 millimeters to 8 millimeters on a standard bullet, out to 8 millimeters to 20 millimeters on the telephoto. What this is going to do is narrow your field of view, but give you much greater detail at range. So you might use these cameras for a long parking lot or areas of interest that extend far away from the building or surface the camera is mounted on. Finally, there's the Fisheye. The most unique camera here, you'll notice the 12 megapixel sensor and the different field of view options. This camera sees all of the area in front of it, which allows you to choose either a 180 degree panoramic view or 360 degree four-way split view. This gives you a very wide area coverage with a single camera, but keep in mind, even though this is the highest resolution sensor, the pixel density is actually the lowest because of that extremely large field of view. And this camera is the only in the lineup right now that won't give you the advanced analytics features. Still, it's a great way to get a lot of coverage in one package. Those are all the cameras we have today, so now let's quickly talk about another related product in the Verkada range, the VX51 viewing station. This is a device dedicated to enabling large-scale camera monitoring, such as in a traditional security operations center or command center. It's built on a Mac Mini, but has been completely customized and optimized for viewing Verkada feeds. You can view up to 36 at a time and scroll through up to 5 pages. It supports advanced viewing features as well, such as motion tiles and floor plan tiles. It's also completely managed from command, making configuration very easy as well. Keep this in mind for those customers with large-scale viewing applications. Now that you know the different cameras and related products we offer, I'm here on our mounts accessory sheet to talk about the mounts we often pair with those cameras. Starting with the MNT2 mounting arm, this extends the camera from the wall and can point the camera facing down. This mount is almost always paired with the MNT8 pendant cap, which we'll show down the line. Similar to that, we have the MNT3 L bracket, a lower profile version to change the orientation of a camera. You might use the mounting arm if you're trying to mount an external camera pointed back towards an entrance, whereas an L bracket will be used in most cases simply as a lower profile option. If you're using a dome camera outside, you'll almost always want to pair it with one of these options because it protects the camera from weather, keeping it cleaner longer, and can make the lens easier to position as well. We'll move on past the MNT4 here because there's an updated model I'll show down the line. The MNT5 mini pendant cap lets you attach a mini camera to a standard 3/4 inch MPT thread. It can also unscrew to give you a 1.5 inch thread that can be screwed into something like the MNT2 mounting arm. The MNT6 mini camera junction box adapter gives you the ability to mount a mini camera to a standard single gang or dual gang junction box, concealing it and making it look a lot better. The larger Verkada cameras can mount directly to a junction box, so they don't need an adapter. The MNT7 angle mount is a 30-degree wedge that we will almost always recommend for any wall-mounted D80 camera. Pointing the camera down gives you a better perspective on the area you're trying to look at, less sky or ceiling. The MNT8 pendant cap that will usually pair with the MNT2 mounting arm is here. Can also screw onto any other 1.5 inch threaded pipe. And the MNT9 here, the updated version of that MNT4, gives you a flat surface to attach to a pole, so you can attach an L bracket or arm mount there. You cannot attach a camera directly to the pole mount adapter except for the Bullet series. That is why we have the MNT mount 9/4, is it's compatible with that Bullet series. We also have the MNT 10 corner mount, which is how it sounds. This, in conjunction with a mounting arm, can be especially useful to a fisheye, because in 360-degree mode can help you see around corners. So we'll scroll up to the top here. You can view this document on our website. Note that we have a full compatibility matrix with different mounts and cameras, as well as even mounts and mounts. Now let's put this all together with some design recommendations. Here's a typical Verkada design. Let's look at the different cameras we see here and why we might have chosen each camera. Starting at the entrance to the shop at this shopping mall, we have a CD61 dome camera on an MNT3L bracket. We chose the CD61 because we wanted great detail of everyone outside the store in a tamper-proof housing, because anyone outside the store could have access to this camera. We chose the L bracket because it lets us adjust the camera view to our liking, and inside the store next, we're greeted by a CM61. We again want the best detail of anyone entering our store, but at this point we're more worried about the customer experience than a tamper-proof housing. And so we look at the many options here and here. We also get a wide field of view with these cameras, another thing to consider when designing. Other cameras we have inside the space are the CM41s, here, here, and here, that we mount directly to the wall. The form factor was still important to us here, but we didn't think we needed a full 4K resolution for each camera. We'd rather capture the form here from different angles. Additionally, in these two spaces, the forum and server over here, we eliminate any possible blind spots with a D80 fisheye camera in 4-way split mode. We see another D80 here in panorama mode to cover the entire salon area, and we put it on an MNT7 angle mount to give us the best view possible with less of a ceiling shown. Outside the shop, we have two Bullet cameras. We wanted the most durable option available here with zoom capabilities, and we wanted people to know about our outdoor video surveillance, so we chose this option. The first standard Bullet might be looking at our driveway or parking lot, in addition to our telephoto Bullet here, which is zoomed in on our parking lot entrance 100 or so feet away, so we can easily see the cars that enter there. Lastly, we chose 30-day options for all these cameras based on our customers' retention needs. So while not an in-depth guide, this should serve as a general overview of how we might determine the best Verkada camera for each use case. Now that we've chosen our desired models, let's talk about what a typical installation might look like. The first thing you'll likely do, if brand new to Verkada, is go create an account. Go to command.verkada.com and create your account here. So now you're in your Verkada account. You'll have access to your different organizations here. You'll get an organization by default if you haven't been added to one already. Let's start by just renaming this. Go to settings here. You can see all the different settings, but we'll scroll to the bottom to manage organizations. And we'll choose the organization we have here, and we'll rename it. It's important for all our customers to have their own organization so they can keep their cameras and users separate. Definitely keep this in mind if installing for multiple customers, that you'll want to add their cameras to their own organization. And you can create new organizations here for each and every customer. So speaking of adding cameras, let's do that now. If you haven't mounted your Verkada camera yet, don't worry. It's easy to do, and every camera includes the hardware in the box needed to do so. Consult the camera manual to learn exactly how to install the system. All the documentation is available here on the website, and I want to call out specifically the outdoor cameras, making sure we waterproof them correctly. You'll want to make sure the rubber is completely sealed around the cable, and attach the desiccant packet as the absolute last step before sealing the dome so it can remain effective. You'll also want to pay attention to the orientation of the camera lens. While you can certainly go back and adjust this, and even adjust the orientation in settings, it's easiest to know whether your image will be landscape or portrait by looking at where the V is on the lens right off the bat. Adding a camera is done from this page here. If you have your order number, you can add that entire order at once, or add in each serial number individually. Just type them in, and they'll be ready to activate. Once you've typed in all your cameras, note that you can create and assign sites from this page as well. We're going to go ahead and do that in the next step, as well as set the location. You can also set the camera firmware to update immediately or in a few hours. Immediately is good if you're setting these cameras up and need them to update right away, whereas in a few hours, if you're mounting the cameras, don't want to take the time for them to update while you're positioning, you can set that setting. When you're ready, just go ahead and click Activate. I wanted to call out the Verkada mobile app here as well. You can download it for iOS or Android, and it's another easy way to add cameras to that customer organization. Might also be easier to look at this rather than a computer screen while you're positioning the cameras as well. So our cameras are added. Let's click into one to see a little bit more. Pulling up the live feed here. Our cameras came up right away because we made sure to check the required network settings guide beforehand. Sometimes firewall rules or no DHCP server can affect if your camera comes up easily or not, so keep that in mind if you're doing any troubleshooting. Let's step over into information to see a bit more settings we can name with the camera. Naming the camera itself is easy to do. Click that and you'll easily be able to find the camera by its name later. Creating sites can be done from here as well. Let's add in our first one and we'll name it after the building we have this camera in. There's also a few additional settings we have here as well. Clicking in below the map, we can see a few different things. Analytics can be enabled here. We can enable this per camera or from our organization settings. They can be enabled globally. Let's take a closer look at the Sites tab. Moving over here, you can see our cameras divided. And in Manage Sites, we can see all the sites we've created so far. Creating new ones is easy as well. Normally we'll create sites for different locations. Say we have a Sydney branch, we'll open that up here. We can also create sub-sites, which are useful for, say, your floors or different areas. We'll create one of those as well. And these sites aren't only useful for organizing the cameras, but also for later on permissioning the cameras. We can divide access to the cameras based on these different sites that we create here. If we want to move a camera into one of these new sites we've just created, there's a few ways to do it. You saw before how we create and move a site from a camera. We can also do it from the Sites tab here by simply selecting the site we would like to move the camera into, selecting that camera, and dropping it in. Our cameras are organized, our Verkada environment's looking good. Now it's time to go ahead and maybe share this with some other users. Inside Users and Groups, you'll see the list here so far. For now, it's just us inside this organization we've created. We can go ahead and add more. As I add this user, I'll also assign them organization admin permission. This is the highest level of permission inside Verkada. They'll have permission to add and delete users, add and remove cameras, everything you could possibly do, so keep that in mind when assigning this level of permission. When we add them in, you'll see their role here and the sites that we've created alongside them. Like I mentioned, we can divide permissions between these different sites, and so you may want to assign site admin access for one and different levels for others. Site admin lets them edit settings of the cameras. Viewer is view only for live and historical video. Live only is only that, and no access makes that site invisible to those different users. But as we add a lot of users, we might want a way to provision them all very quickly, so let's now look at groups as well. Groups are a way to organize your users based upon maybe their role. One example of that might be admins. We'll create that, and you'll see the permission structure is the same in this group. We assign the permissions to the group itself. We can add users to this group, and the users inside this group will inherit the permissions of that group, as you can see here. Our sites are created, our users are added and permissioned. We're now looking at a fully fledged Verkada environment, and it happened in just a few easy steps. And with that, we're ready to wrap up. I hope this has been informative and useful for you. We went over a product breakdown where we talked about the specifics of each camera we currently offer. We made some design recommendations on how we often spec out a Verkada camera system. And lastly, we even set up a real Verkada org, all the way from installation to user management. This technical training is certainly in no way comprehensive, but we hope serves as a foundation for the rest of your experience with Verkada. Please reach out to our team if you have any further questions. Thank you, and good luck.